Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to discuss a controversial topic. I often see the wrong information given on social media, and it kind of scares me, to be honest with you, because you're going to put a lot of investment into the school bus conversion, $25,000, $30,000, and you could have your entire day ruined by not following a few simple rules. The question asked often that you see on social media, on all outlets on social media, is, do I need a CDL license to drive my school bus conversion? And the answer to that's not a simple answer. It's a yes and a no. It just depends what type of schooling, what state you live in. There is no federal law that regulates overall. Each state has its own guidelines. So in today's video, we're going to cover state by state kind of where you're at on this and what you need to know. This is based in truth. Now we have a whole lot bigger video planned down the road, where we're actually going to do interviews with state officials, DMV enforcement officers, and the DOT guys out on the road from the state that pull vehicles over or work accidents with large vehicles. So we're going to make a lot of phone calls and do phone interviews with different states and kind of find out where they stand. So this video here will be a pretty comprehensive guide, a basic study on what you need to know before you hit the road. Don't always follow the advice you get on social media, because quite often it's wrong. We're going to break this down state by state and show you what you need to know. Stick around, watch the whole video, and I think you'll walk away enlightened. We've stepped into the office here today, guys, to film this special segment on the CDL driver's license. A lot of y'all are already watching a lot of our other videos. We kind of run two channels here. We've got a little homesteading thing we do, and then our main channel now is about school bus conversion. So we're going to create this Do I Need a CDL video, but remember, we still need you to subscribe. We need to see you subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell for notifications so you can see, because we upload video at least once a week, and our videos are going to be help topics based in truth and research on how to properly do things. You can shortcut where you want to. Nobody's holding your feet to the fire. But do subscribe and do follow the channel and help us grow. We appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, let's discuss why it's important to know what your state laws are in regards to what type of license you may need to operate your school bus conversion. A lot of times I see on social media, and I'll kind of pick on Facebook a little bit here because I see it the most often. People ask the question in one of the groups, hey, do I need a CDL to drive my bus? And there's a wide varying array of answers. Very little truth hits that, and those people get shouted down by the people who just don't want it to be true. But really, there's not a coverall answer. If you live, for instance, in West Virginia, there's no regulation. You can get a 40-foot bus with air brakes and convert it and take off with your regular West Virginia driver's license. You may need a Class D license. I didn't see any information on that, but they're going to be some of the people we interview in an upcoming video. But if you move to North Carolina, you're going to need a non-commercial Class B license, which requires you to take a test, a physical, and a driving test in order to be licensed on that vehicle. So let's say we skirt that and go with the Facebook answer and say, no, you don't need one. There's this federal law that says if it's an RV, you don't have to have a CDL. Not true. The only federal law in place on CDLs is the basic commercial driver's license law. That is, the federal government set a minimum standard that states have to follow. But it's up to each state to determine if they want to go above and beyond those regulations and set their own rules. And many states have. Don't be fooled by what you see, because let's look at what happens if you don't follow the rules. Maybe you never get pulled over and you're riding around on your driver's license and everything is a blast for the rest of your life. On the other hand, you get stopped, you're speeding, you're impeding traffic, you break down. Worst case scenario, you're involved in an accident. And if that accident causes injury or causes damage to a certain level, then they start investigating. Now, you're at fault. So you hit somebody, you didn't hit them that hard, but they take you to court. As soon as their lawyer finds out that you're not properly licensed in the state your license issued for, that vehicle of that size, you're done. You're cooked. They will sue you until you have nothing left ever. Insurance companies have a thing called indemnification. So if you're operating a vehicle and you're insured and you're not properly licensed for that vehicle, the insurance company is probably required to pay some of the claim or all of the claim in damages up to the limits of your policy, but they're going to drop you and no one's ever going to insure that bus again. Second, they're going to drop the indemnification. You didn't meet the guidelines of the little fine print in your insurance policy, which means that insurance company's lawyers aren't going to defend you in court. So now you've got a problem. You're left to your own. You have to hire an attorney. You probably will never get a license to drive that bus. And you're going to be tied up in court and you're going to be losing constantly. So where do you stand? Your insurance is in ruin. Your life's in ruin. All because you listened to a Facebook post that said, nah, there's this magic federal law that says I don't need a CDL. Ask them to quote that law. They can't quote a law. Everything in the federal government is listed in what's called a CFR. That's a Code of Federal Regulation. Transportation is generally covered in CFR 49. Those are the rules and guidelines for transportation. But they don't cover RVs in particular. So pay attention to what your state has to say. So let's move along and let's look at what some of these states require. See if you live there or if you're going to be regulated by this guideline. One disclaimer real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video. If you're driving a bus that's less than 26,000 pounds and not equipped with air brakes, more than likely you need no special licensing to drive that vehicle once you get it converted to an RV. Now you can usually run down to your DMV, show them that you've made a few modifications to your vehicle. They'll change the title from bus to recreational vehicle or house car. So once again, if your bus is a short bus or it's a lightweight bus, then you probably do not need any type of special license to drive that vehicle. You can look at some of the resources I'm going to leave linked below and you can check and see, but most all of these laws regulate vehicles that are 26,000 pounds or larger, or you're towing in combination of over 26,000 pounds. So how do we determine the weight of your vehicle? How do we determine what separates a 26,000 pound vehicle and a 15,000 pound vehicle? It's got nothing to do with what you would weigh on a scale. It's got all to do with what the manufacturer rated that vehicle at build. It is very, very difficult to change that number and come up with your own magic number. And if you were able to empty your bus of everything and go get a new weight on it and get your DMV to lower that GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating, then remember, everything you build into the bus makes you overweight. Once again, if you're involved in an accident or you're involved in a serious altercation where the police are involved, now you're driving an overweight bus and you're not properly licensed for it. So once again, you're in trouble. So every single vehicle has a GVWR rating. It's on the title and there's a plate inside the vehicle. In our bus, it was right above the driver. There's a plate and our gross vehicle weight rating is 26,080 pounds. That puts me in a heavier than 26,000 pound class. So I had to look to the state of North Carolina to see if I had to get a special license, and it turns out I did. I didn't follow the advice on social media. I went straight down to the DMV. I didn't talk to the clerk at the desk. I asked to speak to the DMV enforcement officer, which is a law enforcement officer that's stationed with the DMV. He took some time aside and we had a very long conversation about what's right and what's wrong, what people think versus what's reality. So remember, the weight of your vehicle was determined when it was manufactured, not any other way. And if the manufacturer rated it at a higher rate than 26,000 pounds, you need to check and make sure that you don't need a special license. First of all, let's talk about what is a special license. A special license, there's three types of license that can be involved when you're operating a large schoolie, over 26,000 pounds. A commercial driver's license, or what's commonly referred to as a CDL, is required by 7 states. Then there is a non-commercial special license that's usually in a Class A or B license that some states require, and we'll cover that in a moment. And then there's just your regular operator's license, which the remaining states, that's all they require. They don't have special requirements. So if you're in one of those states, you can bypass the video. There's basically 3 types of driver's licenses that are required to operate a school bus that's over 26,000 pounds and has been converted to an RV. I need to stress that. Even if it's titled as an RV, these laws apply in these states. So let's talk about first type of license, which is the CDL, the commercial driver's license. 7 states currently require a CDL for a converted school bus that's registered as an RV. In Arkansas, if your vehicle, your RV, your school bus conversion or RV is over 26,000 pounds, it requires a CDL. So you'll need to contact the Arkansas DMV to find out what their special requirements are to meet the type of vehicle that you're operating. Connecticut, Hawaii, Kansas, New Mexico, and Washington, D.C. all require a commercial driver's license, a CDL Class B, if your vehicle, your RV or your school bus converted RV, is over 26,000 pounds. Those same states, Connecticut, Hawaii, Kansas, New Mexico, and Washington, D.C., require a Class A commercial driver's license if your towing and your combined weight is over 26,000 pounds. So contact your DMV and find out exactly which license is going to be best for the vehicle that you're operating. Wisconsin is a unique CDL. It is a CDL is required only if your RV or your school bus converted RV is over 45 foot in length. They don't appear to have a weight class at this time, but check with them just to see. That's Wisconsin. If your bus is over 45 feet, you have to have a commercial driver's license. The second class of license that we're going to discuss this evening is going to be the non-commercial license required by 10 states. It's a non-commercial endorsement that's required by 10 states in order to operate your school bus over 26,000 pounds. So in California, you need a Class B over 26,000, or if it's over 40 feet. You need a Class A license if your towing and your combined weight is over 10,000 pounds. Maryland requires a Class B non-commercial driver's license to be over 26,000 pounds. Michigan has the strangest law I believe I've ever seen. The only thing that we can find on their law is you need a double R if you're going to be pulling a fifth wheel and another trailer at the same time. Chances are no one will ever try that. That would be 3 vehicles in combination, and you wouldn't be able to back it up. Okay, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Texas, Wyoming, and Nevada all require a Class B license over 26,000 pounds. A Class A non-commercial license is required if you're towing a combined weight of over 26,000 pounds. So if your bus is 20,000 pounds and your trailer is 7,000 pounds, then you're going to need to have a Class A license. So contact the DMV for details on which license works best for the combination that you're pulling. Let them know whether it has air brakes or not air brakes. Now Nevada, you have to have an endorsement if you're under 26,000 pounds, but you're towing 10,000 pounds. So Nevada's a little tricky. If you live in Nevada, check with your DMV or look at your state law to see what that's about. South Carolina requires a Class E license, non-commercial Class E license, for anything over 26,000 pounds. A Class F license if your combined vehicle and towing weight is over 26,000 pounds. And New York has a R endorsement on any vehicle, recreational vehicle over 26,000 pounds. Now keep in mind while we're making this video, what we're talking about is a bus that's been converted to an RV and already signed off by your state and titled as an RV or a house car. These are the laws that apply to that vehicle. We're not going to get into an argument with the people on social media about, yeah, but once you convert it to an RV, the federal law says you don't have to do any of this. No, it does not. There is no federal law that blanket covers or exempts RVs, whether they're school buses or Class A motorhomes. Each state was left to their own device to figure out whether they wanted to put laws in place. Keep in mind what we talked about earlier. Get the proper license. You don't want to put yourself or your family at financial risk by being sued for not being properly licensed in the event something should go wrong. And we all know that something can go wrong. If you're willing to get into a bus that weighs 30,000 pounds with air brakes and go off the backside of the Rocky Mountains, but you're not willing to go down and drive around your town for 6 blocks and prove to a DMV officer that you can handle a bus of this size, I got to scratch my head. I don't know why. It's just one of these things that I see on social media constantly that baffles me. Now, we've listed 17 states this evening. 7 states require a full CDL license, commercial driver's license, in order to drive your school bus if it's over 26,000 pounds or your combined towing weight is over 26,000 pounds in essence. 10 states require a non-commercial special class license that does require, in most states, you to take a written test, to take a driving test with an instructor, and also most of these states require you to have a physical to make sure that you're fit to drive a vehicle this size. So whether it goes along with your dream or not, it is part of the process. You're willing to learn how to put solar panels in. You're willing to learn how to put a composting toilet in. You're willing to learn how to do construction in a bus with curved ceilings, roof raises, you name it, what's willing to be done. So be willing to be licensed properly. It's not that hard to do. Just go down to your DMV, fill out the paperwork, and get it done. Make your Skoolie adventure fun. Make it something you don't have to worry about, that you don't have stress about. If you're properly licensed and you're properly insured, you really have nothing to worry about other than going out there and visiting the Grand Canyon and going to Salt Lake City or going to Bryce Canyon and all those great places that we all want to meet up, Skoolie Palooza. You just go out there and you're set to go. Just don't believe the myths that you see on social media. In closing, I want to say that we've got 7 states that require a CDL, 10 that require a special class of license on a converted bus that is registered as an RV. The rest of the states appear to have no special licensing requirements to jump in your bus and go. And that's fine, because you'll be covered in the event that you get pulled over or you're in an accident or something bad happens. I'll put a few links down below to some resources on this that we've used on the web. Once again, we'll have a longer video where we're going to have some face-to-face interviews with some state enforcement officials. We're going to do phone interviews with some officials from other states. Some of these we've already gotten done. Some we still need to get filmed. So it'll be forthcoming in our channel later. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and watch for that and a lot of other exciting things we're going to do. And I didn't make this video to bust anybody's bubble or to come off that I'm smarter than anyone else. But really, don't take advice on social media when it comes to a legal issue. And I hear often, well, if the question's not asked, no one will know. But the answers are often so wrong that they're dangerous. You do need a CDL license or a non-commercial class of license in a lot of states. So when you see that question asked next time on the social media channels, just go ahead and tell them, yeah. And give them a link to one of the resources or a link to our video and say, yeah, I mean, here's the facts that you need to know. Just find out what your state wants and do it. And let's cut out some of the nonsense of the people who believe in mythical laws that the federal government has. There are no federal laws. There is no CFR that covers RVs being exempt state by state. And you don't need... Here's another good question. If you're from West Virginia, and or Colorado or Alabama or Montana or one of the states that don't require any type of special license, and then you're traveling through, say, North Carolina or South Carolina, headed out to the beach to enjoy a week, and they pull you over and you've got your regular West Virginia driver's license or Montana license or Georgia license, they can't require you to have a Class B license for the state of North Carolina. I've heard that on social media too. People say, every state you go through, you got to meet their law, so just get a CDL. You do not. The states are kind of signatory with each other. If this license is accepted in the state that your bus is registered in and that your driver's license is from, then you're cool to drive through here. Obviously, if you have a CDL from one of those states, you're going to be really good no matter where you go. But just get your license and get it done. Let's put a stop to all these myths on social media, on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the TikToks and everywhere else people talk, because you always have the people that jump in that don't know the answer, but they heard it somewhere else, so they're going to repeat it. And you can tell them, yes, in certain states requires different licenses. So thanks for tuning in. This was a short video. We're going to get it edited up and try to get this thing posted maybe tonight. If you've got questions, post them in the comments below. I'll come along and try to answer them as I can based on the information that we've gathered, the official information that we've gathered state by state. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notification, and let's rock and roll. And happy school busing to all of you. Let's all meet on the road one day. I hope to see a bunch of you at Skoolie Palooza or one of the other places that we hang out. We're making some good friends as we build Tango Romeo. So have a good evening and pay attention to the rules. Don't always believe everything that you see on social media. Be willing to do some research and come up with your own answers so you don't find yourself in a world of hurt one day. Thanks again, and thanks for tuning in to the channel.